Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Tokyo Override. Sorry, I made that mistake before. Tokyo Override, Season 1, Episode 2. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, we pick up where the last episode left off with, now we have a name to associate with our narcotics detective, and it's Kageyama, aka Lizard, which is interesting. I'm curious how he got that nickname, but he seems like now we're spending more time with him in this episode. He definitely feels like he feels like noirish in regards that he's this hard-boiled detective in a very classic sense, especially when they brought it up last episode and this episode, the whole notion of, like the narcotics unit is antiquated and is getting phased out. So they're extra motivated. They have to kind of prove their worth. Busting this whole highway case is going to be paramount to their careers and their futures. It seems like the most important to Kageyama, his partner, the kind of young whippersnapper that's with him, doesn't seem as hard-boiled as he is. I don't know if it's just, for whatever reason, Kageyama seems like I said, because he's a hard-boiled detective, he seems the most jaded and just kind of like, I'll do what I ever have to, because he's kind of antiquated. Because they talk about it in this episode that his unit, the narcotics unit, is kind of like those of a bygone era. Like most of the Tokyo Police Department have already been gutted and that power's been transferred over. So the narcotics unit is like the last remnant of that, kind of like what was before versus what's now, because it seems like a lot of the it's now a whole other department called the Justice Department, because when Kageyama ended up getting a meeting with I'm going to once again butcher it every time. It's like, is it Luigi or Iuigi? I'm butchering it. The woman from it's the data citizen department or whatever. Because Kageyama figured because they're trying to run stuff, trying to connect. He connects the whole wall breach where two similar tags went through. He's like, maybe it has something to do with it, maybe it doesn't. But they don't have access to it because that department is shutting them down. Understandably, considering the person that's a part of that department is helping out Sumo Garage, and it's like, I'm trying to keep you guys low profile. So Kageyama comes to approach her. It's the whole thing of, you have eyes and ears throughout all of the city. It's like, yes, but it's not for monitoring. It's meant to be for optimization, which even they recognize. She herself, at the very least, recognizes the issues there. And the fact is, the head of it was something with an M. I'm blanking on his name now, but the guy that's the head of the Justice Department, I wonder, is he someone that believes in his cause too? Because Iuigi was not too concerned when Kageyama, she was actually kind of smiling when Kageyama was kind of trying to make his point of give me access to this data or whatever. But they're like, no, don't worry. We'll track down a telegram and let you know if we need your help. So that just pisses off Kageyama even more. But for him, it's we do have one lead, one thread to pull on, and that's Kai. Which Kai was at Sumo's garage but ended up leaving just because she's like, I didn't want to stick around here. You don't have to worry about me. You guys have your situation, I've got mine. As long as you keep quiet about me hacking and stuff, I will ignore all this other stuff you've got going on. So she bounces and goes back home, where her quote-unquote friend is chastising her. It's like, wait, you didn't even get the drugs? She's like, fine, I guess I'm gonna have to pick up drugs or whatever at the concert or something. And for Kai, it pissed her off because she's like, I could have seriously gotten in trouble. You come from a rich family. The parents that you hate so much or have anger towards could have easily bailed you out of it. And so, but her friend's true colors kind of come out when she's like, the fact of the matter is, you must think I'm a spoiled brat because I was born in the West. It's like, well, you kind of have no one. How about you go back to where you belong? Because she was like, the only reason why I'm nice to you is because you're pretty decent at hacking. And it's like, so she ended up showing her true colors, that because Kai probably, that's why I was like, why is Kai going above and beyond? Because probably not a lot of people have been nice to Kai. So it's sadly that thing of the one person that was nice to you, who seemed like a friend to you. Once again, maybe it's a little bit more for Kai. Maybe she had a thing for her, but whatever the case, maybe she showed her true colors in that moment, telling you to go back to where you belong, because she knows because they must have a long enough history for her to know that Kai was tagless, because she's like, right, you're the one that lied to get yourself into this city or something like that. So either like Kai has hidden that, and most people don't know the truth, and she felt comfortable enough telling her that, or maybe she grew up with Kai to know that she. Well, that's the thing, because like we know she got made fun of for being tagless, but the question is like, was that specifically in the area she was in, and she moved to a different district, or what? But it's like, yeah, that friend just immediately took off because it's like, hey, you wasted my money. It's like, Jesus Christ. Because you're like, and that was something I kind of brought up last episode. That's why she's getting Kai to do it and not herself. Because she's like, who am I going to ask my dad to get me drugs for me? It's like, yeah, but you're putting Kai in a situation. And you know it's because, like, one, she's a hacker. But also you believe, like, well, things won't be as bad. It's like your biggest issue would be like, oh, my parents will find out and they'll ground me. It's like, yeah, but your parents have enough power and reach and money that they'd be able to help you. Kai would be on her own. And it's like, yeah, she got mixed up in some stuff because she was helping get score drugs for you. And she's even like, why are you trying to get drugs anyway? Well, like, what's the purpose of that? Which we never found out. So I'm wondering, is that going to come back around in any shape or form, or is that kind of the end of that storyline? We might find out, because like we don't know who her dad is. So her dad is, or her parents are someone of note. So it might turn out to be something significant to the plot. So that might be a thread that seems like it's going nowhere. It might have just seemed like the inciting incident to kind of jumpstart Kai's story, but it could also be like, no, it might start that way, but it might turn out that girl's family is a lot more connected and intertwined to what's going on. Maybe not. So, but yeah, Kai went back to her apartment and she noticed, because she smelled something, and it's like, and she noticed it from when she ran into the narc cops. The person she most likely smelled, at first I was like, oh, is it the detective she's smelling? Because we kind of saw him on the outside. But like when she was going inside and we saw someone younger, we saw like just the bottom of their face, but mainly like their body. I was like, oh, right, because that guy, we just saw him like spraying like some kind of cologne or something on himself. And I was like, right, she distinctly remembered that. Then she notices the footprints that like the kind of Roomba-esque thing hadn't got up yet. So she managed to slip away, but runs into Kageyama. And you're kind of like, oh, Kageyama's just a good cop who's just all about going after the truth. It's kind of an asshole because he starts beating on Kai. It's like, oh, yep. Once again, very noir-esque, where it's just like, oh, yeah. I mean, I think he even gets called out later on of like, yeah, he's kind of a scumbag to do whatever it takes. Like, yeah, he's like, I'll skirt whatever line I need to for justice. But it's like, are you motivated by legitimate justice? Or are you motivated by, I've got to protect my future and my pension and keeping my job around? Like, it might, like I said, it could easily be a thing of he's just someone that got very jaded as the job went on, especially where you're at a position where you're like hanging on by a thread for your job, where it's like, I have a purpose, I'm good at my job, it's just the world keeps ticking on and moving, and once again this city's supposed to be optimized and we're redundant and not necessary. So but yeah, he's kicking her around because she's like, right, you feel good beating on a kid. He's like, well, you hacked 3 narc officer devices, so you want to go around acting like an adult, you'll get treated like one. But it's like, I was hoping at least the other narcotics officers would chastise him for it. It's like, I mean, I was like, well, they didn't see him hitting her before, but then he proceeds to like kick her while she was down. So I'm like, they obviously saw that, but they didn't do anything. So for him, it's like, right, she's kind of got nowhere to go. Some leads you don't need to bother like chasing after. So, but yeah, she initially kind of had nowhere to go because it's like, well, I can't go home. I don't have anyone to turn to. What that so-called friend and what Kageyama said to her started weighing her down of like, she kind of has no one, calling her a weed that needs to be pulled and whatnot. But then she remembers what he said, because I was wondering if she was going to latch on to that, and she does. The whole comment of, oh yeah, that dead kid. So she looked it up and found out it was the kid that they were with last episode. So she goes to Hugo and them at Suma, and obviously none of them knew, because like, Watari's like, no, I dropped the kid off at the shelter. What's going on there? They look into it a little bit later on, and it turns out the shelter says like the moment they turned their eyes away from him, he disappeared. And so the autopsy hasn't really given an option on what happened to him, because obviously the candy they found on him wasn't highway, it was regular candy. Because that's what my concern was. I was like, oh, when they found it, I was like, oh, did he OD? Was that actually highway? But it's like, no, it wasn't highway. It was just, it was a regular candy that, I figured as much, because like I said, we don't know, because I think Spoke got rid of the actual highway drug. I think he got rid of it, because even they were scanning this being like, no, it was a regular candy. Once again, besides, he hadn't taken it anyway, so. But yeah, a regular piece of candy. It is kind of messed up that it's in the exact same packaging, but that's the whole point, to kind of hide it so you don't know what it is. So, either way, it's a situation of the truth behind this matter. I'm struggling with the name. It might be pronounced Ikuji. I would assume it wouldn't be, but maybe that, because of the spelling, it makes me think that's not how you would pronounce it. I've heard it multiple times, and I just can never commit it to memory. So, I mean, but obviously she's looking into things. Once again, kind of like her, more so like the Justice Department's kind of handling that investigation. So she had told Suma squad like, "Oh, I'll fill you guys in on any information I find." Because the big question is, why is someone like Kageyama investigating this? It's like they didn't know there was a narcotics reason to investigate this. Like they didn't know there was anything to do with highway because they only found the candy on the body afterwards. So why were they showing up at the crime scene in the first place is interesting. But it's like, because he's tagless, and maybe it has something to do with some more recent tagless deaths or something. Because it is, I mean, whatever it is, it seems like at least from the confines of the episodes, it seems like this kid's the only victim. There doesn't, like, any other, like, there was like 5 kids in general. The other 4 seem to be okay, or we haven't heard anything about them. It's only this kid. He must have just been unfortunate for whatever reason, or maybe he was chosen for a specific reason. Who knows? But anyway, obviously Kai's got nowhere to go, but Hugo decides to let her stay with them. It's like, right, finding out more about her, saying like, "Oh, you're a hacker. Where'd you learn?" And I think it's interesting because Kai's very quiet about it. So I'm wondering, is she self-taught? Because she probably doesn't want to really bring up too much the fact is that she's a tagless, but she got upset when it felt like when Watari's dad was saying like, "Well, we're just gonna have to leave this to them. Like, we've kind of done our job." But she's like, "Oh, what are you gonna do? Just forget them because they're tagless?" Which it struck a chord with everyone, because it is a thing of not only is it a kid that died, but it's also a tagless, and this kid will kind of go like no one will miss this kid because this kid kind of fell out of the system. And it's like once again, are Kageyama and them solving the crime for the sake of justice in the world? It's like, no, it's about keeping your job. So don't have the most altruistic reasons for doing what you're doing. I mean, that's the thing. Like, even if you don't have the best reasons for doing something good, should it matter when you're doing something good in the long run? That's a heavy philosophical debate, you know. So because it's like, right, if you don't have the best of intentions when you're doing something good, the good thing might be done, but even if you're still doing it for the wrong reasons, once again, good place vibes of that doesn't count towards the good karma in your life. But once again, like I said, it's a very extensive philosophical question. So, but John, I said call him John. I don't know why I said that. Hugo has taken an interest in Kai. Going back to the point I was making, I know what I was about to say. I was like earlier, I was like, is Kai self-taught, or was there someone that was important to her that taught her? Like, maybe it's kind of like she kind of had an old like sensei type of situation who is no longer around, or maybe it's like she picked up some of these skills from her family, because we don't know. We know she's alone now, but maybe she wasn't always alone before she came here and being tagless and stuff. So maybe that's all, like, maybe she lost her parents, and that's why it's like no one will know her. You know, all she has is herself because she lost. Who knows? Like, maybe we'll have to wait to see. But for whatever reason, she's not too fond of like opening up to Hugo about all that. She did bring up something interesting that she told Hugo, like, right, you need to check out Watari's like thing, because she's like, when I hacked it before, I recognized someone else had already hacked it too. So that might, because Watari was the one that was with that kid last. She's the one that dropped him off at the shelter. So there could be something to that. Not saying like Watari's a part of all this, but like this might have started because someone had an eye on Watari specifically. I don't know. That's a thread we haven't really pulled this episode. But either way, while this was all happening, we kind of got more insight about Suma Garage. From the outside, it looks like, hey, like, rich people just come here. It looks like a regular garage where we fix up people's, like, rich people specifically, their gas-powered cars, because I guess it's like, right, because it's so antiquated, like, the means of travel, like, to have a car, specifically something gas-powered, it means that, you know, you have to have some power and wealth to kind of be able to do that. So, but in the back of the garage is where they really do their stuff. They have their whole operation. But there's kind of this, you know, obviously, because he's like, oh, why do you, like, because he was talking to Kai being like, oh, I get it. You look at this and you're like, why are you, like, what's so special about this? And he's like, no, it's a good question to ask. But it's like, yeah, about the good that they can do, which we see that this episode where they are transporting a heart, and the reason is because they're going from, was it west to east, basically for medical purposes. A heart that's kind of kind of beyond its expiration date, even though it is still technically good, the West will throw it away. Even though someone still could use that heart, it's still viable, but it's just like there are guidelines, and those in the West are very strict about following said guidelines. So this heart would have just gotten disposed of. So it's like, right, we got 30 minutes to transport it from the West to the East. Once again, taking these jobs is what they do. That's part of what they, and I even love at one point, Hugo's like, yeah, it cuts to the heart of the situation. And she's just like, oh my God, you're so lame for that. Like, oh my God, do you have no shame? And he's like, nope, I don't have any. But yeah, which I also love. I don't think they did that last episode, but like the bike sequence where you see like, I don't know what you call that shading, like the shading effects from like the back of the bike, like what would kind of be like dust from the wheel spinning on the ground. It like the way it's like jagged, like this jagged line animation. I was like, ooh, I really like that. Maybe what happened last episode, but I feel like I didn't notice it last episode. I feel like I only noticed it this episode, but maybe I was just paying so much more attention because it's like, well, like it's a brighter, like, because obviously there's this very like techno color on the like bridge and stuff and the wall and the vehicles around, whereas like this is just daytime, so maybe it stood out even more in this color palette rather than last episode because there were so many colors on screen. So maybe that's what that is. So zipping and zagging, and it's kind of like right, you kind of like empty out your brain and you just kind of trust your instincts in your gut as they're like jumping things, going downstairs. It's like very like off the beaten path type of thing, just to cut out on their time. And Kai is meant to hack into the walls. Also, really quickly, I did forget, Hugo kind of gave Kai an ultimatum. It was like, cool, you have to come and work for us, or you have to leave, because the last thing we're going to do is leave a pretty good hacker here in our spot. So kind of you had nowhere else to go, so you kind of, you're between the rock and a hard place, so she had to reluctantly come along. And obviously hacking the first wall was kind of an issue, because like she only was able to get it partway hacked and open, so she ends up, I like that sequence where she just like rips the like hacking cube thing she's got open to tear open a pathway. Got through the first one. She luckily made the second one work out. So I can't remember if that was before. That might have been after they separated from Spoke, because of them going through an alleyway. His bike ended up getting tangled up in some junk because Hugo slammed into something. So like he trying to make sure their bike doesn't flip. He just like, I don't know what you call that whole thing. I always forget, like where you were like you're doing like a backwards wheelie and just like was able to stop the bike. So Kai has to get on the back with Hugo, and luckily they made it in time. And it's like, right, this is why we do what we do, because look at this family that is here waiting for this heart. Like it is shows the good that they do. And it's just like, yeah, rather than being a cardiac arrest, it's a cardiac fest. And she's just like, Jesus, you were so lame. And I love that they finally got back to the garage and everything. It's like, cool, everything worked out. Oh crap, we forgot about Spoke, and he's just sitting there waiting for them to come pick him up, and it's up to Kai to do it, which she does. And then like he explains, like, right, Hugo is always helping out and looking out for those who have no home. It's like that's what makes Hugo Hugo. But it's like, yeah, because Hugo has kind of welcomed Kai there. It's like, right, you've kind of got a spot here, like if you want it, really. I mean, you've proven yourself today, so you kind of have nowhere else to go. This is kind of a perfect spot. But then Hugo looked up something and left. And when they came back to the garage, and because Watari was there, she's like, wait, where's Hugo then? And they looked it up, and whatever it was, something came through about the kid, because about, once again, he was taken by someone like a day before he died. And so the question then becomes, well, then who grabbed him? And whoever this person is, and whatever it is Hugo saw, apparently is why someone like Kageyama, aka the Lizard, why it's a narcotics case. So I wonder, is it specifically tied to the person? Like what was seen on screen that we didn't really, maybe we saw and I just didn't quite get it, but Kai's looking at something, because they're all kind of understanding, looking at something. I don't think, maybe we're not meant to until we see the next episode to know and clarify what that thing is exactly. But I'm so curious to find out where this is all going to end up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want. Oh, really quickly before I wrap this up, I also really like the outro as a cryptogram. It's really a nice song. It's kind of got a nice vibe to it, and just like, oh, I kind of skipped through the credits. So I don't think it played last episode. I think this is the first episode it played. But either way, really liked it. Yeah, getting to the outro. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.